everybody. So today we're doing the next in my Disney Canon project where we are looking at The Great Mouse Detective. The film was released in 1986 and it is based on a novel called Basil Baker Street. Of course, is based on the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes stories, but with a mouse. And it's really creative. They have kind of the human world and the mouse world kind of existing at the same time. So you've got like the actual living Sherlock, and then you have the mouse version of Sherlock. You have the human version of the Queen in the palace, then you have the mouse version of the Queen, which I thought was really, really creative and really fun. And this is, I think, a little bit, I would say, underrated, and I would say the average human being doesn't know about The Great Mouse Detective, which I think is a shame. We always knew about it growing up because we love Sherlock Holmes. Anything Sherlock Holmes in my family, we go crazy for. My dad it's really the only show I can think of, aside from church stuff, that I remember my parents actually videotaping was the Jeremy Brett PBS Sherlock series, that my dad would videotape it and rewatch it, and yeah, nothing else. My parents don't watch any television, hardly at all, hardly any movies either. And so it was just something that we talk about Sherlock Holmes. None of us like the Robert Downey Jr. versions. We all have our opinions on that. We all really like the Benedict Cumberbatch versions. So we all have our opinions, and we all have different ideas of what we like about Sherlock Holmes. We've all read all the stories. We all love the stories. And so how does The Great Mouse Detective fit into the pantheon of Sherlock Holmes stories? I think it fits in really well. I think they capture sort of the feel of Sherlock Holmes, his sort of neurotic energy in Basil, his focus on the case, his ego, all of that is all there in Basil that you have with Sherlock. And so I think it really works. And this movie starts out with a bang, because you have Olivia, who's the little daughter of a toy maker named Mr. Flavisham. Mr. Flavisham is abducted by this peg-legged bat, and it's pretty scary. It's a very, very scary opening sequence. Younger kids might be a little upset by it. It sets the tone really, really well, and you get this sort of foggy feel of the city and of London and sort of where it is, and that this is going to be a mystery. And it starts out with some real like tension and stakes. So this is not just sort of a silly story, and you really feel for Olivia. You know, she's had to see her father get abducted. She's all alone, and that's when she meets Mr. Dawson, who ends up becoming our Mr. Watson, obviously. And then he's sort of the narrator of the story, as Watson is always in Sherlock Holmes. And so they go and they find Basil and they meet him, and he ends up being on the case. Well, it turns out the case involves, the reason why Flavisham has been abducted is because evil Ratigan, voiced by the great Vincent Price, is concocting this plot, have this robot built, and that is going to impersonate, they're going to kidnap the Queen. They're going to impersonate the Queen with this robot, and they're going to give Ratigan all of the powers, and then he's going to take over the empire of Mouse, British Isles, whatever. And so it's kind of a crazy plan, but I thought that part of it is a little bit more sort of James Bond-ish than Sherlock Holmes-ish. It's usually a little more simple with Sherlock Holmes as far as the villain's plans, but I think it works, and Vincent Price does it with such flair and such polish that, yeah, I really enjoy it. One of the things that's really cool about Ratigan is he is one of the first Disney characters to have a true villain song. Before that, you'd had something like the Pirate Song, which had been sung to Captain Hook, and you had the Siamese Cats singing their song, but they're kind of out of the movie after that. You never really hear from them again, so I don't think it's a true villain song. But if you think about the great Disney villains, up until that point, you had none of them sang. It's not like Maleficent sang. It's not like the Evil Queen sang. It's not like Lady Tremaine sang. None of them sang villain songs. You have Cruella de Vil, but again, that's being sung to her, not by her, as a villain song. Well, Ratigan, we get the world's greatest criminal mind and Vincent Price singing about how great a villain he is. And
an even grimmer plot has been simmering in my great criminal brain. Even meaner.
You made it. Worse than the widows and orphans you drowned. You're the best of the worst around. Oh, Radigan! Oh, Radigan! The rest fall behind. To Radigan! The world's greatest criminal mind.
And it's gonna be, then you're gonna see that, of course, in Beauty and the Beast, in Little Mermaid, in a lot of the movies that would come after you have a true villain song. So it's a lot of fun. And I like the fact that how violent he is. Like, it's really, I think if it had been a human, it might be harder to digest, but because it's mice, it's just not as hard. But he's very violent. Anyone calls his name and says he's a rat, even though his name is Ratigan, then he gets very, very upset. And he actually, this drunk mouse calls him a rat, and he feeds the mouse to the cat. And the cat, he's gone, he's died. Like, that's pretty violent. I was surprised. I thought, like, oh, he's gonna squeeze out of there, he's gonna run away. Nope, he's dead, he's gone. So, the case kind of continues on between the sort of battle of wits between Basil and Ratigan, and it's really entertaining. It's fun to see sort of the elementary, my dear Dawson, you know, kind of deductions that Holmes, of course, or Basil is famous for, and he sort of builds the clues, and you've got these two egos kind of going at it, which is really enjoyable. The only part of this movie that I really don't like is there is this scene at a seedy bar where they're trying to get this clues for where Ratigan is this extended scene where this mouse starts out fully clothed and she's all sweet and innocent, and she sings the song "Let Me Be Good to You," and it's a full-on mouse stripper scene. Like, she goes from being fully clothed to being very skimpily clothed, and she's like taking off the clothing very seductively, and I don't know, I think it's really inappropriate. And
get cozy, your baby's here, you won't be misunderstood, let me be good to you. Hey fellas, I'll take all my blues. Hey fellas, there's nothing I won't do just for you.
especially "Let Me Be Good to You," that's very seductive kind of lyrics. And I when I first did my rewatch for my blog, I watched it, I was like, I have no memory of this song or this scene being in the movie at all. And like I said, we watched this quite a bit, and we watched anything with Sherlock Holmes quite a bit. And I called my mom, I'm like, Mom, why? I never remember this scene. And she was like, oh yeah, I always fast forward this scene when you guys watched it. And so I had no idea that was even a part of the movie. So it really surprised me, and I don't like it. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it is, it doesn't do anything for the story. It's not like it's needed. And yeah, I don't like it. I don't like having a stripper scene in my Disney mouse movie. So yeah, that's my biggest problem with the film. It is pretty scary too. Like I said, for little ones, there's another scene where they're going to try to find clues in the toy store, and the bat is there. The bat's pretty scary because he's trying to get clothing and stuff for this whole con of Ratigans, and that scene is pretty well done. It's pretty creepy, but it is pretty scary. So depends on the kid that might be a little scared by it. But it's all in a spirit of fun. It does all sort of lead to this great climax where there's this fight on the clock tower, and you get a sense of this is really like painful, and the sound design is really excellent in that scene. You really feel the punches and that they're actually like really fighting. And it was one of the first times that they used computer animation in a film. The scenes of sort of the clock and the way it's moving and everything, it looks great, and it still holds up, I think, quite well. The whole art design of the film holds up, I think, really well. Like I said, from the very beginning, where it's very foggy and Victorian and kind of the feel, and you just get this sense of sort of a mystery, and And also, I think there's a nice chemistry, as you should have in a Sherlock Holmes movie, between Dawson and Basil, between Watson and Holmes, basically. And I think that Olivia is actually a pretty nice little character, side character. She's not a total kind of young damsel in distress. Like, she's smart and opinionated and has her own ideas and things. And I like her. I think she's a decent character. So all in all, I think it's an excellent job. I like all the vocal performance, especially Vincent Price is great. I like all the songs except for the stripper song. And I think it's an underrated, nice little movie. It's directed by Ron Clements and John Musker. I think you can see the potential that both of them have in that we will see in The Little Mermaid coming up in just a couple of movies. So let me know what you think about The Great Mouse Detective. Do you like it? Is it a favorite of yours? Or do you think it's kind of forgettable? Put it in the comment section, and thanks so much. I give The Great Mouse Detective an A-. I really do like it. So thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!